Today we're looking at Deuteronomy chapter 33. We're coming to the end of Moses' life. And what better place to talk about the end of somebody's life than in a graveyard? So Moses knew that he was about to die. And so he called all the people of Israel to him for the final blessing. And as I was reading and preparing through this for Deuteronomy 33, I couldn't help but remember back to our study of Genesis chapter 49, when Jacob did the same. Jacob called his 12 sons and he pronounced a blessing on them. So I compared Genesis 49 and Deuteronomy chapter 33. I want to go through each of the blessings that Moses and Jacob pronounced upon the tribes or the individuals who were the father of each of those tribes. The first one in both accounts looks at Reuben. Reuben was the firstborn son of Jacob, and he was the one who was mentioned first in both of these opportunities of blessing. You'll remember in Jacob's blessing of Reuben, that he no longer was to have preeminence. He would no longer had the rights of firstborn. Centuries have passed, and the tribe of Reuben no longer has any prestige or power. In fact, Moses, while remaining positive for each of the sons of Jacob, each of the tribes, Moses says, "Let live and not die." The tribe of Reuben would be few in number. It would be small. And if you read through other censuses taken that are found, Reuben is one of the smaller of the tribes. The second mention that Moses has, the second son, is Judah. Judah has risen in prominence, in great prominence within Israel. In Jacob's blessing, Jacob said of Judah, "Your hand shall be on the neck of your enemies." And he talked about a scepter being held by Judah. Judah, in Moses, was a warrior against his adversaries. Judah was always mentioned as being strong, and it was one of the strongest of the 12 tribes. The third one mentioned in both of them is Levi. Moses says, "They shall teach Jacob your laws. Bring incense before God, burnt offerings on God's altar." They were the ones set apart as the priests for the people. Jacob, in his blessing for Levi, said that they would be divided and scattered among Israel. And in Moses' time, they were divided and scattered because they were the priests of the people, and therefore they were taken away from being a tight unit of a tribe or a clan. And as they were taken away, they were dispersed through all Israel to be the leaders, the spiritual leaders of God's people. Benjamin is the fourth one to be mentioned by Moses. Benjamin is beloved by the Lord and dwells in safety. Benjamin was also beloved by Jacob. The fifth one is Joseph. Joseph and Benjamin weren't mentioned until the very end because Jacob went through each of the sons in order of their birth, according to their mothers. Joseph is divided into two tribes because he has received a double portion of the inheritance. So Manasseh and Ephraim are both mentioned by Moses. Their blessing will produce good in the land. Next one that is mentioned is Zebulun. Moses says that Zebulun will draw from the abundance of the seas. And we look at Zebulun and we see where they are on the map, and they're closest to the Mediterranean Sea. That's exactly where Jacob had prophesied in his blessing of where they would be, that they would dwell at the shore of the sea. Issachar is mentioned along with Zebulun. Then we come to Gad. Gad has a promise of expanding land. And Jacob has a raider shall come, but he will raid at their heels. So expanding land and the raiders of the heels, there's a connection there with territory and being able to conquer their enemies. The eighth one that Moses blesses in his blessing is Dan. Dan is a lion's cub that leaps from Bashan. In the next son that is mentioned is Naphtali. Naphtali possesses the lake and the south, so he's given a territory. Moses, in his blessing of the people, gives the tribe of Naphtali a land territory. Asher, most blessed, strength of iron and bronze. That's Moses' blessing for them. Interesting, we've gone through all 11 of the men who were the fathers of the tribes of Israel, except Moses leaves out one tribe completely. Simeon is not mentioned. We know later that they were given land from within Judah, but it was almost like an afterthought. They have a little tiny territory within Judah, and time will come where, yes, people knew they were from the tribe of Simeon, but they were essentially amalgamated or assimilated into the people of Judah and other southern tribes of Israel. Moses, different than Jacob, all of his blessings upon the people are positive. Jacob looks at his sons and recognizes their sins and identifies and points out their sin, and not exactly cursing, but he doesn't remain completely positive the entire time either. So Moses dies after his blessing on the people, and God takes him, and God is the one who buries Moses. It's the only time in scriptures where God is said to have buried somebody. Nobody knows where Moses was buried, unlike these well-marked graves back 130 years. Moses, nobody knew where he was, apart from this. He was taken up to a mountain called Mount Pisgah. And Mount Pisgah was where God had taken Moses before so that he could oversee all of the land that had been promised to Abraham, to Isaac, to Jacob. Moses wasn't able to cross into that land, but he was able to see it once again before he died. And he's shown the land. He dies, and Joshua begins to take up the lead. And then we come to the end of our study of Deuteronomy. Tomorrow, we'll start into Joshua. Have a great day.